Hello and welcome. We are live and we're going to let some folks join in with us here. Give it a few seconds and let people get comfortable, let them get their notepads together. Going to be joined tonight by what I consider to be two
Good
authority figures.
evening.
Hi, Tamara. Going to be joined tonight by people that can help parents navigate and cope. I think it's really important. I encourage parents as we're waiting for this to kind of fill in a little bit with listeners and watchers. Hello, Will Cahill. Thank you for being a new member. But I really want to make sure parents understand this is a Q&A. It's meant to inform. It's meant to educate, and that will come from Coach Tyner. And then it's meant to give you some coping mechanisms, how to deal with frustrations, possibly. But more, this is more about not to criticize. This is not to spread doom and gloom. This is to try and get as up to date with regard to information and opinions as we possibly can. You know, ESPN goes to great lengths to bring in coaches such as Nick Saban, and then during basketball season, they have the great Dickie V. I, for one, am
Bless
a
you.
huge fan, as are many, many others within the coaching industry, as well as from the parents that I speak with. Coach Matt Tyner, who is the head baseball coach at Towson University, when I have the ability to kind of get him to spend some time with us, I take full advantage of that. We are in the fall season. We are active. But first and foremost, good evening to Coach Tyner. Thank you for joining us, Coach.
Thank you very much, Walter. Always a pleasure, and always look forward to spending time with you, your wonderful audience, and of course, Doc. It's good to see you.
And Tamara Siemon, again, the Elite Mindset Development. You can find her on Twitter, and so many parents tell me that they thoroughly enjoy our every other Tuesday conversation. And I thought Tamara would be able to, she's going through the recruiting process, albeit with softball, but I think it adds perspective, not only for the moms out there, but it adds perspective with regard to helping our athletes, our teenage athletes, our young athletes, how to deal with some of these topics and issues. And Tamara, thank you so much for joining us tonight as well.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to join the conversation. And Coach, nice to meet you.
My pleasure. My
Thank you.
pleasure.
I think, Tamara, you'll find that Coach Tyner is an elite kind of mentor in all aspects, not just baseball, but his perspective is really refreshing. And I think it's in a time like this where we're all running around trying to find out the latest information. I think Coach Tyner brings great perspective as well as tremendous insight. And Coach, I want to start with you because I think it's important for parents to understand that this is not the coaches versus the athletes. This is something that's been going on for several years. The House of Representatives, Congress, has brought forward this litigation with the NCAA, and it started with regard to making sure student athletes at universities were treated in a respectful and responsible way. But can you kind of share your perspective on where this legislation kind of came from, but more importantly, where it's at as you and I and Tamara are speaking today?
Well, to keep it simple, I'm just going to relate it back to name, image, and likeness. And what we had was an opportunity for the U.S. government to get involved with the exploitation of student athletes, where masses and masses of money were being made, and the student athlete was not receiving any type of benefit, i.e., monetarily. So, with some involvement and some legalese, just to keep it concise, a good thing has happened. It is now protecting the student athlete and allowing the student athlete a number of positive things with the increase of potential increase of scholarships. Isn't that what we all want?
Yes.
Do we not want to make sure that our student athletes have an opportunity to make some money off of their name, image, and likeness? Isn't that what we want? And then isn't it a possibility that they all get a chance to share in some revenue? Isn't that what we want? And then isn't it that they have additional insurances available for them after their playing days? Isn't that what we want? So we've got all these positive things that are happening here, but everybody's worried about what's happening to my son right now.
Right.
And I understand that. And that's the great debate. What about now? Well, this thing has taken years to get to this point, and I don't think they're going to be able to make everybody happy. But the biggest thing that, and you've already said it a million times because I've listened to you, this is not a us against them. This is not a us against the recruits. This is not. I mean, when this thing lands and it becomes doctrine, we have to abide by it. So nobody's making up any kind of hoodoo the voodoo. It is what it is, and we like doing what we're doing or we wouldn't be doing it. So we're not fabricating any stories when we say we got to get to 34, and we never planned for this. We just didn't wake up one August 15th and say, hey, next year we'll go for 34 so for all you guys, it didn't happen that way. This thing came and it is just what it is. But there's a lot of great things that are going to happen, starting when this thing kicks in.
And the other part of this is really for parents to really be fully aware. And part of the reason why I wanted Tamara to join with us this evening is this is not baseball centric. This is all sports. This has Title IX implications. This gives schools an option that I will get with Coach Tyner in a bit. They can opt in, or they can choose to not opt in and be a part of from a Division I perspective. So scholarships in all sports, revenue generation in those sports. There will be what they refer to affectionately within college athletics as the Olympic sports or the non-revenue generating sports, i.e. crew, tennis, etc. And so it's really, you need to take a deeper dive. We're going to shed some light and try to stay within our lane with regard to baseball and softball and so forth. But, I want to kind of get this perspective for parents. And Tamara, this is why I would like you to kind of share your thoughts on this. As a parent, you and your husband are going through the recruiting process, albeit with softball. But I would love for you to talk about, from a parental perspective, you really have to take and have a better understanding as to the ramifications long-term, meaning the benefits. This is a pro-student athlete piece of legislation that we're dealing with. And yes, the first people through the wall generally get, quote unquote, bloodied. But really, as a long-term benefit for student athletes, this will be a very rewarding process for student athletes across all NCAA sports.
I completely agree. And it's so vastly different. And we've talked about this before from my experience, yours, my husband's. So trying to understand it, trying to keep it simple in our mind. And then for us, like, my daughter's not going to play professionally, right? So I have to be very specific about what is the end goal? What are we trying to accomplish here? And then almost back into that. Like last time when I spoke to you 2 weeks ago, we talked a lot about, hey, geography is a big piece of the conversation. We went up to Boston. We had a great time, but my kids were like, nope, I don't want to be that far. Like, okay, like that's a piece of the equation. So there's all of this information that clouds the picture and complicates things at times. I need to keep it simple for myself and for my child. It's like, I am raising you to be the best human being possible and to put you in a position to succeed and thrive and be happy wherever and whatever that looks like. So my criteria is going to be different from maybe a football player who isn't, already groomed and he knows he's going to the NFL, but like, what's the end game? And then we have to back in and put ourselves in a position to best succeed in that regard.
Well, I think that is a tremendous point. What is the end game? Coach Tyner and I have talked many, many times about the experience with regard to the balance of the collective college experience. And it's really simple if we are looking through, as Tamara likes to say, a smaller lens, and we look, our sons are a 2025 high school graduate, and they're the ones that are going to bear the brunt of this potential roster caps and roster limitations and so forth. But this affects all of college athletics. It's not just Division I. This is all of college athletics. And again, I want to stress, I have a few questions coming in. That's why we have Coach Tyner here. That's why we have Tamara Siemon here. For parents that have specific questions, I encourage you to ask, because we don't want to speculate. We want to get you as informed as possible. And so, Coach, I would love for you to kind of share, because you said this to me off before we started our live discussion here tonight. There's a date looming in 2025. It's in April. And I would love for you to share, because you offered such, as you always do, eloquent response to, here comes this deadline. It's been years in the making, but it's going to be a good, when that date occurs, there will not be any ramp up with this. But if you can kind of go back and share a little bit about the date in April of 2025 and what this will mean for the graduating class of 2025 as far as student athletes is concerned.
As I heard today from a pretty good source, April 7th is a date for ratification. And I think between now and then, potentially not all of the questions will be answered, but the majority of them will be answered. There are some serious rocks that need to be stones that need to be turned over, and all those questions. I mean, there are so many questions probably that are going to have to be answered between now and then that they maybe haven't even thought of. So I guess people have to have a little bit of patience when this thing is really starting to unfold, and then go from there. And you mentioned before, what does it look like when you opt in? Well, what does it look like if you opt out? Are conferences allowing for part of your teams to opt in and part of your teams to opt out? All of those questions have to be answered as well. The P4, they know they're in. They are in. The autonomy schools, they've got to be in. They're opting in. Now then it's up to the rest of us. And if you look at Division I baseball, you're talking about over 300 teams and 32 conferences. I'm not even sure who will be left standing, if you decide to opt in and not, and make no bones about it. From what we've heard today was you're either all in or you're all out. You're not going in with specific sports. So whatever you're doing, you're funding it, and you're funding it this way or however the directive of your conference and your school thinks it can happen. So I haven't spoken to my AD yet, so I don't want to throw anything out there. We have an all-staff meeting tomorrow, and I think by and large, everybody will start to get more and more information. We're just at the very beginning of the information exchange. And from what I've heard, of so many people out there, they all want to be first to break the story. And I
Right.
get it. But gosh, what they're doing is they're just starting a rumor mill where, people can fester, and it'll turn into a snowball, and it might not even happen. So I just caution people to just sit back, relax, as I am, and let this information come to me. Right. I mean, I could just go back to telling people, hey, this is a good thing. And what happens if it doesn't work for my school? Well, then it just doesn't work for my school, but it's still a good thing for the P4. It's still a good thing for all of the schools that opt in. Yeah. I mean,
Can you define opt-in versus opt-out? I get a lot of parents that are asking me the term opt-in, and
you have a choice to make. Do you want to be in the revenue share pool or not? And if you are in the revenue share pool that is part of this legislation, then you are going to be bound by the Division I rules for baseball, 34-man roster and up to 34 scholarships. They didn't say you have to give 34. They say up to 34. Okay. Well, I'm a Division I program that has 8 out of 11.7 right now. Right. What do you think the chances are that I'm going to get an additional 26 scholarships? Let me help you. Right. And you know what? Here, let me help you. You know, I always get to this point, right?
Right.
I think there are a couple words we need to start redefining. And one of them is loyalty. Because the loyalty that we are starting to see in college athletics and high school athletics and travel organizations throughout where is the loyalty and what defines loyalty? Okay. And really, what does it mean? What loyalty means to me, Walter, may not be what it means to you. And it may not be the same for you. So, boy, I wish there was a way that we could find some common ground on just that word. That's first. Second is commitment. What does commitment mean? You know, and I've always, an old buddy of mine used to say, you're either pregnant or you're not. So you're either, you're either committed or you're not. And it goes both ways. And I understand it. So that's another word I think that needs to kind of be redefined. What does the word commitment really mean in 2024? And then to steal your thunder, what's our end goal? And right. I just did some quick math for you. You know, you said my daughter's not going to play professional softball. And I said, you're right. Well, guess what? 9,700 college baseball players at the Division I level are not going to play professional baseball either. Mm-hmm. At 34 times 305, it gives you 10,370 potentials for 600 spots. Do you like those odds?
Right. And I think that is where this whole narrative should really begin, is that college athletics, first of all, if we start at the high school level, athletes participating in baseball, those are the numbers that I know, about 500,000, maybe 450,000 of that. I'm going to speak specifically of the NCAA, approximately 37,000 between Division I, II, and III. And then we have NAIA and obviously junior college. So it brings a total a little over 50,000. And of that 50,000 every year, let's say draft eligible, let's just call it 25,000 are draft eligible. It might be closer to 20. Only of the 700 approximate MLB draft picks, only 600 of those guys are Division I, NCAA Division I baseball players. The rest are comprised of high school and junior college and some Division III. So this is really about making a life decision. And Coach and I were talking previous, this is not just a Division I centric issue. This is going to be a benefit for all of baseball, all college sports, men's and women's sports collectively. And Coach, one last question for you before I go to Tamara, and that is, if you opt out, I have a parent who's asking, okay, if you opt out, are you then able to carry your roster of 40 regular season or your fall season, 45 plus, if you opt out or do not choose to opt in, I guess is the best way to phrase that?
Unknown.
Unknown. Okay. So, and that's kind of the stock answer that I get. And I want parents to hear that from a coach and not just me. There is no final determination of that yet. So if you hear, okay, you're going to be able to go footloose and fancy free, we're getting a lot of questions. So I want to give that to you. Tamara, I have a question for you that came in is I want parents are talking about when you brought up geography or geographical considerations.
Mm-hmm.
You're a parent and your child is looking at schools and now there's probably less room at the end at maybe the higher levels. Why do parents or why do student athletes see it as a lesser opportunity? Aren't college athletics, and I get the levels and the caliber of play, but aren't opportunities pretty much with regard to academics, athletics, social, culture, etc.? Isn't that part of the collective college experience? Shouldn't this be based more on something more than just the athletic prowess of a particular athletic program?
It definitely should, but show me a post where you've seen that displayed. Show me a video where that doesn't sell. It's not sexy in our culture today, right? And I 100% agree with you. Like, what I care about for my child is if she does play a sport, I want her 20 years after school to be able to text those teammates and have laughs. I want her to be able to go to a wedding and a funeral and like have that lifelong bond, right? And you develop that by being at the right place and by being a part of something special that you both commit to. But it's also about learning how to be a grown-up, learning how to manage your time, learning like as soon as you step on campus, the days are long. I don't care if you're D1, 2, or 3. It doesn't matter. You are no longer in control of your schedule. So we really are doing ourselves and our kids a disservice by honing in only on, as you call it, the athletic prowess, right? The sexiness of the program. It's like, I went on this recruiting trip and like, here are all my pictures. And I know that's a part of it, but that becomes a bigger deal than like, did you like the campus? Did you like the coach? Did you feel in your gut like, I could live here? I feel like these people have my back and have my best interest at heart. Or did you just get caught up? And I don't blame the kids. They're 17. I don't blame the parents. I just think that we need to be very intentional about helping people understand what matters. Because do you want to send your kid a year? And I hope it works out. But if not, we've got the portal. Like, I get that, but what a just tumultuous process. Like it's tough. It's tough.
I hear a lot of parents talk to me and they'll come at me. And Bert, I'm going to ask Coach your question, and I am going to encourage all the parents. We are getting a lot of questions, but we want those questions because there's nobody better to answer them than Tamara and Coach Tyner. And I also want to let everyone know, this is a hot topic. There are always going to be changes. There is nothing set in stone. I and Coach Tyner specifically are offering our opinions. Obviously, Coach Tyners are more educated than I, but, I want parents to understand that college collectively as a whole, the transfer portal, this isn't like a ride like the Ferris wheel. This isn't like going to the carnival and woohoo, I'm at this school this year. I'm going to unpack my bags. I'm going to pack my bags. I'm going to go to a different school and I'm going to go on another ride. It is a tough mental, physical, it's exhausting. It's a grind. That's not what the college experience should be about. You don't want to put your head on a pillow in one state in September and then June you're in someplace else and then August you're in another. So the portal is not like a Disney ride. I want to make sure that parents understand that. And Bert, I'm going to ask your question, and there's nobody better than Coach T on this. Coach, what's the benefit? How is this a benefit? Like you just said, whoa, this is a benefit. And parents are saying, we don't see it as a benefit. Help us understand. How is this legislation in any way, shape, or form a benefit for parents and obviously student athletes?
Well, it's not going to be a benefit for the, let's see, how do I want to word this? For the 40,000 plus, except they may get a better playing opportunity. All right. But the 10,370 in Division I, I've told you, you've got an increased opportunity for more scholarships in the pool. You have a more opportunity for NIL. You have more opportunity for revenue sharing. You have more opportunity for increased additional insurance benefits. There's 4 benefits right there for the student athlete. That's pretty good. I don't know how else to word that. Let me also say this. When you're asking me that question, what is the benefit? You're not saying what's the benefit for the greater. It sounds like you're asking what's the benefit for my kid, and that's where you have to figure out what that end goal is that Tamara mentioned before. What is the end goal? Are you looking for a good education? You're looking for a good fit? Because it sounded like Tamara was looking for a good fit with good education and pretty close to home. And if you think back to my recruiting seminar I gave with you, what did I say? The first thing that has to happen is financial fit. It has to be a financial fit. The second is you better have the field of study you want to go into. And that's it. And then third, what's the academics like? Well, is that parent also the parent that said, I want my son to commit when he's a sophomore? Because that answer to that question, whose fault was it that we committed when I was a sophomore? Well, an uninformed person made a decision they should have made about their high school student athletes' future for 4 years after high school without one, spending a night on campus, going to at least a camp on campus, seeing it, not getting caught up with the bright lights and bushy tails. I mean, all of those things, a good informed decision takes time. It does take time. And if you're looking for that end goal and you don't have those 3 boxes checked, it's not going to be a good finish for you. It's really not. So yeah, I understand. I do, where the parent and the young student athlete sitting there going, well, what about me? What about me? And the Division III opportunity, the Division II opportunity, the mid-major opportunity. Yeah, sooner or later, here's the other thing. And Walter, you're younger than me, so I'm going to date myself. But when I played, there was something called cuts.
Big time.
We don't do that anymore until you get to my level. And if it's an admission-driven school, they don't do it there. I've got coaches that coach 80 people in Division IIs and Division IIIs. Well, those 80 people help keep the door open and help to try to provide an activity for that young athlete / student. Well, when are we going to wake up and see that that's what that is? And as long as the kid's happy doing it, then that's fine. Let me flip this. I'm going to flip it back.
Okay.
If there were no scholarships anywhere, and we weren't talking about revenue sharing or scholarships or revenue or insurance benefits, would your kids still play?
It's a question that needs to be asked.
And
it needs to be asked.
That's right. Would your kid slap his glove on the handlebars of his bike and run to the diamond that's at the playground of the school that's in your neighborhood? I can help you with that answer. Answer is no, because there is nobody ever playing pickup baseball in the summertime when I drive by those schools. And I've lived all over east of the Mississippi. So
you're preaching to the choir on that one. And I want parents to understand, I think, there's a lot of, and Jason, you've kind of hit the nail on the head here. In the short term, the answer is to the elephant in the room. The high school athletes of 2025 and to some degree 2026, yes, there's going to be a cause and effect. I don't think anybody's trying to single out a sport. I don't think anybody within the NCAA, more importantly, no coach at any level, at any sport, is looking to penalize a student athlete, not even a little bit. They find no joy in Mudville having to call a young man or a young woman and say, hey, there's no room at the inn. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it goes. They're the deliverer of the news. They're really not the ones manufacturing, creating, or making the news. So that's one. Two, all levels of college athletics. If we take what Coach Tyner has told us and say they opt in, they're opting into the revenue sharing across the landscape of all of the sports on the NCAA level. They're able to participate in from the bowl games and the playoffs and the March Madness and our June Division I College World Series and things like that. So all colleges are part of this. And one of the questions that came in, and Coach and I were talking about this with regard to the Ivy Leagues, and I've talked to a few of the Ivy League coaches, and they're basically saying, "Hey, we don't know yet." I don't think anybody truly knows from conference to conference, more importantly, from university to university, whether they will opt in to the revenue share or opt out. Now, bear in mind, this is my opinion. Coach, you can jump in here. If you opt out, you're sacrificing a significant amount of revenue, not only for your athletic department, but obviously more importantly, your university. And, that the Power Four, as we now affectionately call that, will be blended into one big, cosmic universe of which everybody's a part of, and the conferences will realign accordingly. So I get that. But the number one thing we have to take away from this is, one, the hard cap, it's coming. The number's 34. When does that get implemented? Coach has already stated there's not really a ramp up, but when it comes, it's the 34 if you've opted in. Two, we don't know if you don't opt in, do you get to stay with 40 or have an unlimited roster or scholarships? We don't know the answer to that yet. Everyone will be affected across all of college athletics. But I really want to speak to the parents. And Tamara, I would love for you to kind of take this because you're actively involved with it. I'm getting a lot and Anthony, I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to have Coach Tyner talk about the formula for the revenue share. I'm not really familiar with that. I'm not high enough up in the pay scale to answer that. But Tamara, I do want to ask you, Title IX, for decades, that was a hardly fought battle. And now that it's been implemented, and rightfully so, there will be athletic departments that will be forced to make a decision. If a northern school has 39 varsity sports versus, and I'm going to call, ice hockey, things that maybe some of the southern schools do not have. There are Title IX implications with regard to this new legislation. And can you talk a little about that from your perspective, meaning anything that is revenue sharing or with regard to scholarships, which is the big topic we're talking about here tonight, has to be matched evenly, men's sport to women's sport. So obviously this is affecting, in your world, softball. And can you talk a little bit about that with regard to parents having to understand this is not just baseball, this is all sports, men's and women's?
So yes, I feel fortunate that my daughter's playing a sport that is a little more mainstream. So the places where she's looking, she's not going to be impacted. But I think it's really important, and I'll keep this as simple as I can because I am not an expert. But as a parent, and then as someone who works with student athletes looking to play at the next level, it's just so important to find someone who can explain things in layman's terms, someone you trust, somebody who can help you stay in front of your decisions and the process. Because this landscape is showing us that we have to be incredibly flexible and we don't know what else is coming down the pike. So I don't have all the answers, but that is my perspective. Continue to hone in on what your child is looking for, what your child's end goal is, and what you want for your child who leaves the house at age 17 or 18, and then they're growing up into an adult and they've flown the nest. Like, we have to set them on the right path, and we have to have resources we can trust so that we understand that we're putting them in a position to succeed.
See, I think this is something that we don't talk enough about, the college experience, is the value of the mentors that we put into our children's lives once they leave and they go to college. Somebody like a Coach Tyner, a Coach Corbin, a Coach Decker, these become mentors far beyond the baseball or the playing fields. They become resources. Hey, Coach, I'm going through a tough stretch with work, or I'm going through a tough stretch with my sons or my daughters. These are mentors. And so this isn't a, hey, can you get me to the major leagues, which is an extremely, it's a major miracle to become a major league athlete. That's a story for a different day. But I think it's important for us as parents to understand the value of what these 4 years are providing over and above athletics. I would like to, first of all, for Shirley, a P4 means a Power 4 conference school, which currently, as we talk here today, would be the SEC conference, the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Big 12. It used to be referred to as the P5, which was the Pac-12, but the Pac-12 is slowly being dissolved, and those schools are part of the now what we just referred to as the P4. Coach Tyner, I have a question. And that is, when a student athlete, the question is, I'm going to paraphrase it. JUCO gets a lot of fallbacks out of fall baseball from all levels of college, but particularly Division I. Is that something that, will go away with this? If schools that choose to opt in, there probably will not be the same amount of JUCO or Division I fallbacks going to JUCO in the latter half of the fall or early in the spring semester. Is that something that you would agree with, disagree with?
Well, let me also clarify one thing about
Sure.
the ramp. That's undecided also regarding when you have to get to 34 in baseball. Nobody knows that right now.
Okay.
Nobody. So are you showing up on campus with 34 as of September 1st or whenever you start school? No idea. Do you get 2 weeks? Do you get a month? Do you get 30 days? You got to have it certified for the first game. Nobody understands that. All I meant was that the roster limit is 34. That's it.
Okay.
There is no ifs and buts or about that. It's 34. So back to your question, do I see JUCO getting less opportunities for kickbacks at the mid-year? And I would say more than likely, yeah. For all intensive purposes, we have heard that the roster certification will take place in the fall instead of the spring. Therefore, you're going to have your number set. And I would hope that a parent would do their homework before and say, hey, coach, how many guys do you plan on having on campus? I mean, I've got guys on my team right now that have gone to schools where there's been 55, 56 people on campus and he said, I was the fourth third baseman. And I'm like, okay, there you go. The fourth third baseman. Now that's not probably, and 3 of them were junior college transfers, and this kid was a freshman.
Well, the big thing is, and there's a follow-up question that, Coach, I want to add to this is, will there be a red shirt or practice squad for the opt-in Division I programs? In other words, will the Division I programs have the ability to continue to keep red shirts or a practice squad on their roster or in school?
Oh, great questions. And nobody knows that answer right now. And if they do, I'd like to see it in writing, if you don't mind. But those questions have been asked. Gray shirt, red shirt. I mean, how we don't have a minor leagues. So if we're a hard 34 and 4 pitchers go down, you're in trouble. You're live with 30, trying to play how many games? That's going to be tough. That's really going to be a tough act to follow right there. So I don't know. And that is a question that's been asked by everybody. for sure, in our sport alone.
Right. And I think it's important. So parents, the number one reason for this evening's call is to really for two purposes. One, to let everyone know, we need to take a deep breath. The sky is not falling. There are going to be changes. Nothing is in stone as of today. The 34 number, I think, has been agreed upon, but still there's a lot of balls in the air, as Coach Tyner has said. The other part of this is there will be, and there's a question here, Coach, could teams, in your opinion, this is an opinion question, I'd like your thoughts on this, could teams, and we don't need to choose a school, but could, in theory, teams say, you know what, we can't afford the baseball team, we'll make it a club sport, and we'll just let that go because it doesn't generate a lot of revenue and it's very expensive. Could that be a part of this process by some universities?
Yeah, that'd be a big 10-4. And the reason being behind that is because one of the elephants in the room is going to be the ramifications of Title IX on this, and the ramifications of schools that have what you said. I've got 39 sports. Okay. Do you think $20 to $25 million is, if X amount of money is going to football and X amount of money is going to basketball in the P4 schools, that the other X left is going to fund the other 36 sports? Where are we sleeping under a rock?
Right. I mean, these are the questions that I don't think enough parents look. I know we look through, and Tamara is famous for saying, step back, widen the lens. Let's not look at everything, pertaining to baseball and our child. Let's kind of widen this thing out. And as always, Coach Tyner, hammer, nails it. This is something. You need to expand on that, because I think parents are not looking at it from that perspective.
Well, and let me, and I will expand on this. First and foremost, I work for Towson University. I don't work for Towson University baseball.
Bingo. Right.
I don't work for Towson University baseball. I want what is best for Towson University. They were kind enough to give me a job. It's been 8 great years. I mean, and I hope I've done some good things there for them. I hope they feel like this was a good hire. Our win-loss record hasn't been what I wanted it to be. So we've tried to make great strides in other areas, of course. All right. But I work for Towson University. So what works for them works for me. I have to look at it from that perspective, because I know deep down in the 1970s, if I was sitting here, if Coach Frazier was down there and Coach Bertman was over there, and we were going, and I said, hey, Coach, what do you think my NLI? What do you think Coach Frazier would have said? I mean, this is a Hall of Fame baseball coach at the University of Miami. What do you think he would have said? Bro, you play for the University of Miami. That's your NIL.
Right.
Good luck with that. And if you don't like it, I'll make one phone call and there'll be 2 of you in here. And I mean, and Bertman would have gone, yeah, see, that's right. Your NIL, it's not going to work. You revenue share. Yeah. Here's an extra meal ticket. Come on. Are you kidding me?
And here's the other thing I want to drop, and I am going to get to the 2 questions that I've been asked for Tamara, and I want to make sure I don't step over it, because they're important questions. But I want parents to understand, and I don't know where Coach Tyner will stand on this, but I have talked to a lot of college coaches, and I want parents to hear it from me. This is my opinion. College baseball at the higher levels is being run, or is being, I'm going to use the word manipulated, by agents. There are agents that are name, image, and likeness agents that are talking student athletes out of attending one university because another university is going to match or going to pay them a certain amount of money. Now, this topic does not get discussed. It's certainly not applicable to the masses, but I will tell you that all of these travel organizations that are the higher levels, they have advisors, agents that work within the name, image, and likeness, and they get up to 30% of the name, image, and likeness package. We're seeing it in college football. We hear about it in college basketball. We think we hear about it in college baseball, but don't be fooled for 1 second. There are a lot of people with ulterior motives that are trying to move and manipulate players off of rosters. It happens a lot during the summer. It happens obviously during the fall, during recruiting time periods. And parents, you need to pay a lot of attention. And this is a big topic that nobody's going to tell you a lot about, that I know a lot about, because I hear from a lot of the coaches, I hear from a lot of parents. This is a business. It is a billion-dollar business, and that is at the crux of this legislation. That's why the House, that's why Congress brought this litigation to the NCAA. That's why we have revenue sharing. That's why we have name, image, and likeness. So for those parents that are out screaming about, college coaches doing a disservice, it's not that way. There is a lot of cloak and dagger going on behind the scenes, and college coaches are not out to upset your son. I can assure you of that. And I want to get Tamara, because we've had a lot of parents, particularly parents of softball players, with regard to the Title IX, and I know that you really don't have a lot of involvement in this, but the role of JUCO in baseball, we hear a lot of that. Mm-hmm. It's now starting to become an integral part of softball. And I'm going to start with you and then go to Coach Tyner. Do you think, as a parent of a potential college softball player, will JUCOs become like a minor league / feeder system into college athletics, particularly for women's sports, where there might not be as many participants across all women's sports? But do you think JUCOs will benefit, from female-orientated sports, driving more female high school athletes into the JUCO ranks?
I think so. My gut tells me yes, but I don't have the
Would you consider that a sacrifice to your daughter's academic? In other words, the question really is, are JUCOs do they offer the same type of academic experience, as opposed to going to a D1 school and transferring and trying to maintain academic standards, for lack of a better term? Do JUCO schools offer female athletes a strong academic foundation leading into their 4-year school?
So I would love to know the answer to that, because it is not on my radar for my daughter. That is our personal decision. Like I said before, she's not looking to extrapolate it's not like her position is not, I will go anywhere to play softball. All I care about is playing softball. She's very clear. No, I want to try to go to a D1. I'm a realist that it's going to have to be a smaller D1, but this is what I want for academics. This is the type of geography and distance from home. So with that, JUCO is not even on my radar. Now, for some people, it might be a great stepping stone, or they might say, you know what? I just don't see myself wanting to do the 4-year academic route. That's not in my future. That's not how I see it unrolling. So JUCO is a great option then. So it's great to have that choice. But again, you have to go back to what are we trying to accomplish? Because if you're looking for a stepping stone and development and then D1, awesome. That's an option. If you don't want to do 4 years of college, great. Now you have a 2-year option. But be clear on what you want, instead of getting caught up in kind of the sizzle and the sexiness and the excitement of what comes with all of this. That's
another part of this that I want to make sure that parents understand, and this goes for every level of college athletics. And Coach, you can offer your opinion, as I know you will. But at the higher levels of college athletics, you one thing that parents need to understand is you must have the ability to execute. There's a certain level of production. And in other words, college coaches are good people, but they are compensated to create, all college coaches across all college athletics, every sport, men's and women's. They are out there to produce a competitive program year in and year out. And when they don't, that's why they have a coaching turnover or coaching carousel, as we affectionately call it, during the months of May and June. But Coach, can you talk to that about the expectations of when a college athlete comes onto the campus? There's a certain level of ability, being a part of the we as opposed to being focused on the me. You must be able to produce. You must be able to execute. That's a part of this process. It's not like you just get a scholarship and you go put your sunglasses on and just kind of sit out in the outfield and hang out and get your name, image, and likeness. There's a certain level of expectation, is there not, with regard to college athletics?
Well, it takes me back to my first couple of years in pro ball when I was fighting for that $200 raise per month. I remember talking to the administration of the Baltimore Orioles, and I said, I'm really worth it. I'm worth $200 a month. And they were like, dude, this is just a game. This is a game. So anytime I wanted to talk business, the administration said it's just a game. And anytime the administration wanted to talk game, they always said it was just a business. So what is it? Is it a game or a business? And I think if you answer that question, then you get the proper perspective. And to answer yours, big time college athletics is just as much a business as it is a game. I mean, come on, who are we kidding here? We're paying coaches millions of dollars, not just in my sport, in every sport. I was at a very, very high profile academic institution throughout my career. And I remember sitting in an all staff meeting, and the court jester was doing his famous comedic act. And he was like talking about needing to go to the highest paid man on campus for decision making. And everybody was thinking he was talking about the president. He wasn't. He was talking about the head basketball coach because he had just signed a multi-million-dollar contract. So I mean, it is what it is. These guys are great talent evaluators. They're able to put, teams on courts that want to be seen on TV. And, are we the minor leagues for the NBA and the NFL and the MLB and the women's lacrosse and men's lacrosse leagues and women's soccer leagues and men's soccer? Yeah, we are.
Well,
and at what price?
At what price is exactly correct. And the number one on that topic, Tamara, parents of 2025s are literally filling up the Q&A. And there's a sort of mindset. Parents are angry. Mm-hmm. Athletes are disappointed. How do you handle that frustration? In other words, there's nobody you can call. There's nobody, this isn't a blame game. We can't call the baseball coach and say, you stink. You told me you wanted me. Now you don't want me. How do parents and athletes deal with this internally? And then how do they move forward with this mentally? How do they kind of in their brain say, okay, I'm not wanted, but yet I'm still going to try to pick myself up and go find a new home?
It's a great question. We have some friends of the family who are going through this right now. It's like everybody knows somebody, right, was promised something and then check the Twitter profile. We're decommitting because we just got the call. We're no longer there. And it's brutal. So the reality of it is, I think it's important to know, easy for me to say, it's not personal. Like, this is where the mindset comes in of you have to be willing to say, you know what, as much as this sucks right now, there is going to be something better for me out there. There's going to be a better fit. And right now I don't feel it and I don't see it and I don't want to see it because I'm angry. But if I can't change it and I love this sport and I want to play, it is my responsibility. And like, that's where, again, I'm not minimizing the difficulty, but what are your choices? Your choices are to stay angry and do nothing, or your choices are who's in your corner, who can they call? Who do you have that can call a couple of coaches and get you seen? You know, kind of what does your network look like? And how badly do you want it? You know, and I hate it for these kids. I do. But I choose to remain not Pollyanna, but I choose to say, you know, we still have to push through. We still have a responsibility when we think about how long we've sacrificed and how much we love this game. We still have to push through to the end and find something. Hey, it may be a 2-year stop at a JUCO, but keep the faith that through networking and staying focused on your criteria and what matters, that you can find something that's a good spot for you.
Coach, I have a lot of people that are asking me if you're with all this new legislation that yet to be finalized, is it possible or potentially possible that a class of high school graduate in 2025, when the dust settles, that there'll be some sort of a I don't want to call it a contract, but a certain number of years that a student will have to fulfill at their university if they're at a mid-major? Will there possibly be a 24-month or 4 semesters before they can hit the portal? Is anything like that being discussed as part of the legislation where athletes, whether it's with name, image, and likeness or potentially a scholarship, full scholarship or partial scholarship, be tied to a certain commitment with regard to number of years at that institution?
I have not heard that. So I really can't speak to that, but talking about opportunities and whatnot, and going way back to the loyalty thing. If you remember, I said definite redefining loyalty, that transfer portal thing. We had our scout day today, and one of the scouts that was there said, do you think that your institution is going to become the minor leagues for the P4? And that's a real question. And he goes, you know, if I was in your shoes, that's how I would be recruiting. And I'm like, wow, that.
Well, we could make a point that in light of, you know, if we take Endicott, Salve, schools that are close to me geographically, and the number of athletes that are going up as well as going down with regard to, you know, Salve and Endicott have athletes that have gone from Division III to Boston College and UConn and a few other Division I schools. In effect, all of college baseball would become, or all of college athletics, but more importantly, baseball, and I guess we could say softball, would become a minor league of sorts, from rookie ball up to AA or AAA, however we want to look at it, for these Power 4 schools. And a parent wants to know, how do you feel now in light of, will this be the equivalent of a professional division versus the, I don't want to use the word amateur, I'm sure he's referring to that as non-paid, but the higher paid athletes are in the major leagues and the lower paid athletes are in the minor leagues of all college sports? Is that how this is effectively going to be viewed when it's all said and done?
Is that directed at me?
Yes.
Well, I think that's what's happening right now. I mean, if you look at your P4 plus 2 opportunities out there, some of these schools are paying handsomely. We don't have an NIL deal. We're a mid-major.
Right.
We're 242 on the RPI schedule. We don't have NIL deals. I've got a couple kids that have like their own clothing lines that, you know, will put up internet store for their own benefit. There might be, you know, we're sponsored by Under Armour, thank goodness. Mm-hmm. And anything that we don't wear that's Under Armour, they can go get their own deals on that. But I don't think anybody's cashing a $10,000 check or anything like that. I mean, you might get 10% off at the local pizza pub.
Right.
That's our NIL deals. I mean, all these people that think, at every college stop, it's an NIL deal. That's sadly mistaken. There's the real world, and then there's the fantasy world. And what you turn on and you see TV, 110,000 people in a stands or that's not the real world for guys like me. It's not. And I come from a pretty good program that's trying to play in that NIL world, and they're struggling with it too. So,
well, I think that's what parents need to understand is there's not a lot of firm, definitive, let's go in this direction, and people are still trying to navigate and vote and figure it out. Tara, I want to let you know regarding the Title IX aspect, if a team increases from 11.7 to 34 scholarships, does that mean they need to give additional scholarships on the female side? The answer to that question, I believe, Coach, you can correct me, is yes, which is part of this narrative is that these additional scholarships, for instance, at Vanderbilt, I'll just speak to Vanderbilt because I know I have a son that attended Vanderbilt. They have a women's soccer team. They have a women's lacrosse team. They don't have a men's soccer and they don't have men's lacrosse. And so there's the balance with regard to football and basketball and baseball. Some schools have softball. Some schools do not have softball. But yes, there has to be in Title IX is essentially the balance for men's scholarships and female scholarships, women's sports. They have to be the same and they have to balance out, which is part of this big dilemma with Big Ten schools, some of the northern schools. I think we're better off with that carry hockey, men's hockey, women's hockey. But when you start to get into some of these other sports, and you carry 39 varsity sports, and again, this is the point of this whole legislation that parents, this is not baseball centric. This is not about how many baseball guys can I get rid of or flush or get to decommit. That's not what this is about. This is legislation from Congress brought on against the NCAA for the betterment of student athletes' collective experience. So, Tara, that is definitely something that is of consequence here, and that is the topic. Some schools definitely have a Title IX consequence, and I'm glad that you asked that. Tamara, I have a question from a mother. My daughter's a 2025 commit, Power 4 school for softball. My son is a current sophomore in the Colonial League. Once this legislation settles, now this is more for Coach Tyner, will all scholarships ultimately be guaranteed, Coach? In other words, the parents are trying to figure out, my daughter's at a P4 school, my son's going to a non-P4 school. At the end of the day, is this trying to get to all scholarships being guaranteed? Now, the answer to that question, as Coach Tyner has already alluded to earlier, baseball has the ability to go up to 34. Some schools or conferences will do the 34 full scholarships, but most of the 300 plus Division I baseball programs will not. They have the ability to go from 11.7 to 15 or 20, but that has yet to be determined. So, Cindy, I don't think from the P4 to the non-P4, that's going to be it. Coach, is it school specific or conference specific with regard to, like, can somebody in a conference say we're going to go full 34 and we're just going to stay at 11.7 non-P4?
That's a good question, but let's go back to Title IX real quick.
Yep.
And I could be wrong on this, but I think I've got a little bit of an insight.
Right, you do.
The Title IX legislation is really based off of your school's profile, right? So in other words, a school like Towson, we're 60-40. Okay. 60% female, 40% male. Okay. So if you look at our 19 sports, we are significantly more female than we are male, but we have football. So football eats up a significant amount of body per se in percentage. Last year, about a month from now, after the NLI, early in December, my administration came to me and said, hey, you're going to have to get your number down from 40 because we need to be compliant with Title IX. Okay, we're a state school, so we're going. What do you think I said? No, I can't do that. No, I said, okay, we're going to have to go do that. So all of the guaranteed, remember now, we only had 6 scholarships. So all the guaranteed roster spots that I'd given before, I had to call those people back and go, hey, look, I don't have a guaranteed roster spot for you anymore. This is what's happened. Sorry, I don't know what you, that's all I can say. And it is what it is. And I'm sure they hung up the phone and called me every name but in the book, and you're lying and all that. But I slept well that night because I know I was telling the truth. So that's a component of this that really hasn't been addressed either. In other words, if you go to fund all those sports, like that 39th sport of that school that you're talking to, and you've got all of those scholarships for all those sports, and you're going to go way over that $22 to $25 million you're going to get. I can tell you that much right now. So what are we going to do there? And that goes back to, okay, what sports might become club sports, flying underneath the flag of a P4 school or a CAA school that is now a club sport, but it's now under recreation department, campus sports and rec, rather than the NCAA. And again, it goes back to, do you want to play the game? Do you want to go? Why'd you go to that school? Why did you go to that school? And that's your lens, Tamara. Why did you go there? If you went there just to play softball, shame on you, man. Shame on you. I'll tell you right now, that's bad parenting. I'm just going to lay it out for you, So if you went there to get your education from there and use your sport as the vehicle to do exactly what you said, 20 years from now, I want to be able to call somebody and go, I'm out of work. Do you know anybody hiring? Because who knows, I might get fired tomorrow for all of this. So I'm going to have to pick up that phone call and make all those phone calls, right? So that's the beautiful thing of college sports. It's the fraternity within the fraternity. It's the sorority inside the sorority.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing this for, because this many people get paid to play, and none of us, less than 1%, ever make enough money to support a family.
Right. And that's really the critical component to this type of discussion, is to understand. And I think we've all, Tamara and I, Coach Tyner and I, have talked, repeatedly about the balance of the collective college experience. It's so much bigger than just the athletic piece, but I know the athletic piece is what draws us all together. And I want to let parents know, we have a myriad of questions here. Ryan Wheeler, I am doing a 5-part series on postgraduate schools. I'm not going to go too deep into that today, but I want to let parents know there are postgraduate schools now that are just driveline, tread, Cressy performance, that are just basically take a year off, get in the weight room, find your spin rate, go do anything and everything other than academics, and we'll see you in a year, and you can defer your acceptance. That's a postgraduate. I'm going to be doing a deeper dive into the academic world with regard to athletics of postgraduate schools, predominantly through the Northeast. And I'm going to do with talking to the postgraduate school coaches and admissions offices, going to talk to parents who are currently 2025 high school graduates who are exploring postgraduates. I'm going to be doing a talk with parents and athletes that are currently doing a postgraduate year. Going to be talking with parents and student athletes that have done their postgraduate year and are currently in college. And finally, I will be talking with a parent and student athletes that have done their postgraduate year, completed their college, have gone on to get their graduate degree, and now they're in their 30s, and they look back and they reflect back on the college experience, but more importantly, on the postgraduate. There is nobody that's going to cover that topic as in-depth as I will. So, Ryan, there'll be a 5-part series for that. NAIA, totally different animal. They have nothing to do with the NCAA. At least that's my thought and opinion. Coach Tyner, if you think there's anything to NAIA, are they involved in this litigation or settlement in any way? No. So NAIA, totally a different world. I'll go down that. I've already done an NAIA discussion. I'd like you to also understand yes, this is a settlement, and we're calling it litigation. This is a settlement. This is something, Coach, maybe you want to shed a little light on this, of a court case. This is the settlement of a court case. This person is basically saying it's not legislation. Okay, it's a settlement to a court case. I think that's kind of one and the same, but many objectors. There's many objectors. There's no college coaches that are all uniformly saying this is phenomenal and we love it, every aspect of it. There are a lot of objectors. They're all still trying to have their voices heard. Right now, how are Division I schools? Okay, this is the question by TW. Now, I've talked to JUCO coaches as well as all college coaches. This is what I do as a profession. This is what I do. I talk with coaches. I try to get some insight. College coaches are frustrated. They are frustrated. In fact, I got taken out back to the woodshed. Coaches don't. I'm not speaking for every college coach. I'm not speaking for every Division I or Division II or Division III. I'm sharing my opinions. Coach Tyner is giving us his educated thoughts and opinions. But JUCO coaches are in the same boat here. They don't know whether they're going to be recruiting this fall or waiting till the spring. Is the sky going to start raining? Athletes getting, asked to leave or not come to school. All college coaches are, I guess I would call it hitting the pause button. Coach, is that a good way for me to describe that, hitting the pause button and taking a deep breath?
Well, yes and no. And the answer to that is, if the minute you quit looking at talent, then you're falling behind.
Right.
So coaches are still going to have camps. Coaches are, we just go, Division I goes into their quiet period now, so we have to do things on campus. We can't recruit off campus right now. So, now's a great time to go to a college camp. You want to be seen, go there, because we're not coming back out until March 1st. That's it. So at the Division I level.
Can you just explain to parents real quickly? And you just did a good job of that, but most parents didn't hear quiet period. What is the definition of the quiet period? Because I have parents calling me about Jupiter. Can't go to Jupiter. Jupiter got pushed back. Nobody's going to come see my son. What is the quiet period?
Well, Jupiter got pushed back because of a hurricane.
Right, exactly, which is more important. Right, exactly.
Yeah, and then secondly, Division I baseball coaches can't move off campus right now. October 15th was, or I believe it was the 15th, 14th. We just shut down this weekend with a friendly against Navy on Sunday. So we're hosting our camp on Sunday the 20th, and we would continue to do that. We might even have another camp in November just to keep the talent, an eye on the talent. I mean, we have to be ready and we have to be nimble. We do. We're in the middle here, where our next May people could transfer out, people could transfer in, we could opt in, we could opt out. We just don't know those things yet. So our job is to coach our players, host camps, evaluate potential talent for the Towson University baseball program, and try to do our jobs. I'm not going to sit back and go, okay, what now? Without having a decent plan. And that's our plan right now, is to continue to do our jobs. And I think most Division I college coaches, if not all of us, are going to sit there and do and say the same thing. But in return to that, we're probably going to have to ask, the parents of people. When I give my speech this Sunday, I will say the three things I always say: make sure it's a good decision based off of finances, academics and athletics, but then you're just going to have to sit tight. Well, what happens if, my son runs a 6'2" and throws 90 from the outfield and drops 17 bombs during BP, and then during the live session, puts 2 on the street? I bet you we try to sign that kid to something, to something. Or the kid takes the mound, he throws 96 miles an hour with an 87 mile an hour slider. I bet you we try to sign that kid. So,
and I think it's important for parents to understand what Coach Tyner was talking about there. There was no concerted effort because of this, settlement to
Settlement. Sorry.
push back Jupiter. This was a major Cat 4 hurricane that, you know, we're talking about lives and people's homes, and so that's why Jupiter got pushed back. It has nothing to do with the settlement. And again, there's going to be a lot of camps. And Coach, you know, mentioned he has one in October, maybe have another one in November. That's where the Blue Book comes in. Blue Book is going to have up to the date. It's all brand new. The app, you go to the app store, you can find all of these coaches, all of these colleges, their camp schedule. And I encourage you, not from a baseball perspective, but if you feel that a college fits the academic, the geographic, the social, the cultural, and obviously from an athletic perspective, there's an opportunity. You know, Tamara was talking about her and her family visiting Boston. You know, it was a little too far from home, a little bit on the cold side. So we want to be in a little bit warmer climate. You don't know that until you go find what you don't like or what you don't want. And that is really the whole purpose of what it is that I do, and Coach Tyner and Tamara help me do, is to help inform parents. And I think the number one thing is, and this is where, you know, we have Tamara on because a lot of parents are frustrated. A lot of student athletes are frustrated. You know, they feel like there's just no room at the end. The sky is falling. College athletics are a privilege. They are not a right. One of the things that has occurred over the last 15 years is because of and I'm not blaming travel athletics or pay to play athletics. We look at it as a return on investment as a parent, that there's some sort of a right of, hey, I've paid my money, I've paid my dues, I've traveled, I'm a good high school player, therefore I should be a college athlete. That's just not how the process works. And, oh, by the way, again, college coaches, when you're getting recruited, and whether it's a catcher, I was a catcher for 37 years. My sons were pitchers. Guess what? When you show up on a college campus, there's going to be 3 or 4 other catchers. Competition is on your own team and it's against other teams, but competition, I got a news flash for you. Every single year, a college coach is trying to find somebody that is better than what they currently have. And if they do, they're going to play. And the number one thing to understand, it's not personal. This is a college sport. A college sport is for those that choose to compete day in, day out, those that choose to prepare day in and day out, good, bad, or indifferent. They show up every day ready to compete. That's what this is about. You don't get a scholarship and get a fast pass to the starting position because you were a 4-star, 5-star, 3-star, you know, all-American, all-region player. That's not how college athletics work. So this settlement, and I want to say thank you to Weston for correcting my words. It's not legislation. It's a settlement. And it should be stated as such. I want parents to understand it's hard. College athletics are hard, very hard. Don't care what level, don't care what school, what conference. Number 2, this is not going away. It's going to happen. Don't know when, don't know to what degree all of the final rules will be. But, you know, first of all, when you have Coach Tyner, he's been at Miami, he's been at Richmond, he's been all over. He's been at every level of baseball, professional, college. This is somebody that has a pretty good idea of what's going on. This is insight. This is not somebody's opinion. This is insight, educated insight. And I think parents should begin to take that seriously. Is this settlement, the NCAA, the most vulnerable pop-out, he says pop-out, for the high school to get rid of the high school athlete? I'm going to take that one because I don't want to offer that to Coach Tyner just yet, although I think he would salivate to take that. Nobody is against the high school athlete. If a high school athlete is better than a senior in college, the college coach is going to play the high school athlete, whether he's a freshman or a sophomore, redshirt freshman, etc. The best play, the best get between the lines, period, end of story. There is no one trying to rid college athletics of high school, because high school athletes, after all, become college athletes. So who's going to want to get rid of high school athletes? That doesn't make any sense. Any idea if fall rosters in the future coach, will be limited to 34. When you opt in and the settlement happens, whether it's 25, 26, or 27, do you think that roster will be firm in the fall as well as the spring?
That's a good question, and one that we debated today as head coaches for the CAA. We didn't debate. I mean, we just kind of discussed it, and our hope is that there is a little bit of a leeway there, that we can have a couple extra bodies on the fall, because using the fall as a developmental time. Think about scrimmaging, Walter. You need 9 or 8 and 8, right? You need 16 players just to take the field. You can't have a pitcher out in the outfield and get the same thing as an outfielder in the outfield. You can't have a pitcher playing third base, so you need 16 players right there. You had 2 sons that were pitchers. Tell me a pitching staff at Vandy that had less than 18 people on it. Okay, good answer.
I mean, yeah. I think it's gonna go to 20 or 22 pitchers myself personally. But
so then, we're gonna have pitchers in the outfield, and that's gonna be bad. I mean, it doesn't allow for the development of your base running. It doesn't allow for defense. Your cuts and relay, all those things. You need a couple catchers in the bullpen. You need maybe 1 or 2 extra people just to play, depth perception in the infield and depth perception in the outfield. I mean, goodness gracious, we're tight at 34. I mean, tight. So
very tight. And I want to answer this because I think Coach will want to say something on this. And Tamara, I'm not slighting you. There's 2 questions that I have here for you. But Weston, nobody is heck bent on hurting the 2025s. I think they're caught in the process here. And nobody is saying it's an enviable position to be a high school graduate in 2025. A lot of high school graduates that are not student athletes, but I understand we're here to talk about high school recruiting with pertaining to baseball and softball, and I want to make sure that we broach that. But we can say all day long that the 25s are getting hosed, they're getting hurt, however, whatever term we want to use. But I will tell you that they're just simply, it's timing. It could have been the 26 class. At some point, someone was going to be affected by this settlement. And it just so happens, as we're talking today, we don't know definitively yet. I want to stress that again. We do not know definitively yet. But it looks as if the 25 high school graduates, that's why we're seeing a lot of schools decommit or ask that there's no room at the end, because these coaches are trying to prepare for what they assume or think will be the outcome. But Coach, I would love one more time for you to just so eloquently describe. This has been in the works for years. This is not something that just came onto the radar in the spring of 24, and now we're out to get the 25s. This has been for a few years, correct? This whole settlement?
I think that I'm not exactly sure when the case was brought to courts, but the final day of approval is April 7th, 2025. So that tells me right there that this thing could change between now and then. And the NCAA will legislate. The government won't, but the NCLA will offer their legislation on this settlement. So if we're going to be perfectly clear on wordsmithing there, however, let me take you back 4 years. Okay. 2020, when the parents of the COVID kids were sitting there going, this is the world's ending. And for all intents and purposes, it probably did. And I'm sure your phone rang off the hook, Tamara, regarding the frustration and the withdrawn. And man, oh man, how do we even rebound from this? We didn't even know if school was going to be in session in 2021. Where are you going to go for academics, the whole 9 yards? Okay, so then fast forward. So then all of those COVID kids and JUCO kids and NCAA kids, they got an extra year. And now all of a sudden we hear parents of 22s and 23s going, well, that's not fair. They're playing against 23-year-olds. That's not fair. They're playing against 24-year-olds. It's not fair. They're playing against 27-year-olds. So it's not fair. And I get it. I do understand it. But this will flush. This too will pass, just like Tamara said. If you make a strong decision or you opt to go to one of your post-grad schools, wonderful decision. If you think your son or daughter needs an extra year to prepare for college, highly recommend that as an alternative. A JUCO, fantastic route. Go bank up some credits, spend a year in development, and then make a move. Go to a Division III, Division II, hone your skill, and do what some of the people in the transfer portal did. Notice I said some, not all, because 5,000 kids got in the baseball transfer portal, and about 2,000 of them didn't have a home to go to. So be careful there on that loyalty side, what you want to do. But there are a significant number of options available for the 2025 graduate. It just may not be at the original place you committed.
Well, I think that's such a big topic, and that's why I have gone ahead and really created this series about postgraduate, and I do talk about the non-academic side as well as the truly schools that have been around for centuries. We may not do the conventional high school graduate to 4-year school. You may go do a gap year. Heck, that's been going on for decades, centuries, where Ivy League high-level academic schools have told students to defer acceptance and take a gap year, or there's more room in the next year's class, and they don't have room in this year's class. Some defer it for a semester. But, we're looking at this through a very narrow lens. Want to answer 2 quick questions. Yes, there is a Blue Book app. You go to the Google or Apple store, you download the Baseball Blue Book app. It has everything and anything. If it has to do with baseball, if it has to do with softball, it's in the book. It's equipment, it's instructors, it's coaches, it's scouts, it's major league teams, it's college programs, addresses, emails. Your sons and daughters can download videos. They can download their social media links, and coaches can find them and correspond with them accordingly throughout the NCAA rules. And next, I want to let parents understand one very big thing, and I'm going to let Tamara speak to this. 2020, we had COVID, and this narrative of Congress getting engaged with the NCAA with regard to athletes being compensated, which led to, and I'm going to let Tamara handle this, the 2021 implementation of name, image, and likeness. It just happened to create this perfect storm. We had COVID, name, image, and likeness, and there was already, Congress looking into with regard to antitrust laws and all of that. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but this is something that's been going on for 4 years now, and it's all coming together. And it is no different if you really want to get to what I call the zenith or the apex of this topic with regard to baseball. When Major League Baseball reduced the number of minor league teams, and they cut 42 minor league teams, and rookie ball, short season, they're gone. That's 42 teams with 40 plus players on every team gone. Major League Draft used to be 60 rounds, then down to 40. Now it's down to 20. And if we really take a deeper dive, what this is doing, it's forcing more high school athletes to go into college. Less are being drafted. Major League Baseball is saying to college baseball, predominantly Division I, you develop these kids, and those that come out with a little polish, a little skill, or a lot of skill will draft. It shortens the free agent window, myriad of things with regard to Major League Baseball. But at the top of this thing, Major League Baseball is basically forcing high school students to college. College is filled. Now the roster reductions, less opportunities as far as roster spots, less people leaving college to go to the draft. You're not seeing a lot of sophomore eligible, junior eligible athletes sign because they're making money with name, image, and likeness. I threw that all in there because I have a million questions. But Tamara, if you could just talk, and I know we're going a little bit long here, but I think it's worth it. If you could just talk, because there are a lot of parents that are very, very upset, very, very angry. And if you could just talk about, okay, we have to understand that this is not going away. no matter how frustrated or how angry we get, but reinforce the discussion point of, okay, we have to understand what our facts are and what our situation is and create an alternative game plan. Can you just discuss that mental clarity or flushing of, okay, we have to kind of clean slate and chart a new course?
Yes. This is one of the, it won't be the last, but it's probably for a student athlete in high school, it's kind of the biggest obstacle that they've faced, right? Where they're trying to make this decision for life and the parents are excited and everybody feels good about it. And then you feel like the rug's been pulled out from underneath you. I don't envy what the coaches have had to deal with. So the color that's provided by Coach Tyner and certainly by you, Coach Beede, with your relationships, I think helps people to feel like it's less of a personal attack, but it is personal, you know, and if it's me and it's my kid, I'm angry. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say you shouldn't be mad, but what do we do about it? Where do we go from here? We have to realize that it's not personal. We can't change it. So we have to accept it. And then it's, what is the next best decision that I can make? And I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but you better be really clear. Why are you playing this sport? Do you love it? Do you love it enough that your dream school was just taken? Are you willing to go to a part of the country you might not have thought of, but to get developed for a year? Like how bad do you want this? And then what's your criteria? And what are we trying to accomplish? And then who can you trust? Who else? Who has connections? Who else can you trust to help you make the best possible decision? The other thing I'll say is, while the thought of the transfer portal makes me nervous, just because I think so much goes into making a good decision. And I am a person who's like grown up with loyalty, and that's just the way my life has been. There's also that, hey, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. You're not going to be stuck. You know, your livelihood and well-being surpasses everything here. And so we have to like get really just rational about what we're talking about.
Well, I have to be respectful of my guest's time. We are now at 90 minutes, and this has gone a little bit longer. All of the questions, there has never been a more well-attended and more questions ever have. And I attribute that to our guests, because people genuinely are interested in what Coach Tyner and obviously Tamara have to say. And I appreciate their time to be able to spend with me on this topic. I want to just a couple of ending points here. One, yes, this is a business. It is a business. Parents, you are asked to spend money. You are the consumer. You are the ones, or the athletes, they are the ones that are the consumer. They are the ones that are putting their trust and their faith into that academic institution. And yes, I'm going to say academic institution that provides an opportunity and an extracurricular activity of a sport. But at the end of the day, this is an academic institution that you are choosing for the betterment of your student athlete's future. As a spouse, as a provider, as an employee or an employer, as a part of a group. This is a life decision that really is a much bigger deal than the athletics. I get it. And I want parents to understand this is not a personal vendetta to get the 25s or the 26s. And yes, you should be making more informed decisions. You know, the biggest thing is you must communicate with those that have access. That's what we try to provide. That's why I ask a Coach Tyner and Tamara to join me, to provide information, insight, and education to allow parents to be better informed. I want parents to understand that's the purpose of the channel. Now, there are 2,500 of you right now watching this broadcast. You should be all hitting a thumbs up, going to the YouTube channel, hitting a thumbs up. These two people have spent We're not getting compensated, but they're giving their time. I want you to show the YouTube algorithm, the Twitter or X, whatever we call it today, algorithm, that this type of information and content matter. So I'm asking for you to go hit subscribe. It's free, totally free. Hit the thumbs up. It helps people know that this type of information is what we're looking to provide to parents. Coach, one gentleman seems to be heck bent on asking me this question, and I know that you will not shy away from it. If a student athlete, by the time they are a junior, sees no room at the inn, we talk about transfer portal for freshmen and sophomore, but do the older athletes have the ability, in your opinion, if they don't see any light at the tunnel, to try to find greener pastures as a junior, senior? And I know that we talked about a graduate student, but do you feel that upperclassmen have the ability to transfer as well as the underclassmen?
Well, and first, let me preface my answer by saying I'm for the transfer portal. I mean, I do believe it, but I believe that, as Tamara is saying, that it needs to be a well thought out, decision. If I'm a junior, okay, and I'm on track to graduate, and I'm not playing, but I want to go play, and I know I'm not going to, pro ball or anything like that, but I want to spend my last year. I want to go see if I can play somewhere. So that means you're probably going down. And let's just take one, for example, at my institution. If I had a junior and he came to me and he said, "What do you think my chances of playing next year are?" And I said, "Well, what do you think your chances of playing this year were?" "Well, I got 4 at bats." "Okay, well, that's probably where, but you're a great guy. You've been a good leader. You've worked with us and so fast forward. Okay, so now I'm a senior. What do I want to do? Do I want to go play baseball and potentially delay my degree? Or do I want to get out of school the next year and go start my career? So those are the questions that need to be brought to the forefront. And from a parental perspective, I don't know how you would answer that. I only know how I would answer that. And my thing would be, dude, get your degree.
Right.
If that was my son, I would be saying, get your degree. You can go play baseball for men's league. The same thing. I don't know, but I'm the realist. I mean, I am the dad that traveled to and from Indianapolis to Indiana to catch the bullpen to get my son ready for his 8-pitch tryout. But in 5 years, he got his MBA. Now he's a hedge fund manager. So I'm like, whoa, why didn't I do that? Well, I didn't do that because I got addicted to baseball at the age of 4 years old. And now I got stuck with a mistress that I can't get rid of.
Baseball.
And a bad mistress, people. Listen to me.
I'm the same person. And that's, Coach Tyner just nailed that. And I've shared this with parents, and I'm going to end on this. I was drafted out of high school. I was in a different situation. My parents had passed away. I can hear, Coach from Arizona State, Coach Brock, and I signed, and I got a little bit minuscule signing bonus of like $50,000. And that today, if I walk into a local watering hole, I get a free bag of chips and maybe a beer and a pat on the back. And that is why I was really focused on making sure my sons graduated from college, not because, as many parents say, the world doesn't need another business marketing degree. I get that, but college is so much bigger than just the classroom and the athletic field. It's about learning all of these skill sets, whether it's self-sufficiency, it's time management, how to become a grown-up in a really hard world. The world is hard. It is not all like lollipops and blueberry muffins every day. There's a lot of obstacles, a lot of hurdles, and college teaches you how to be persistent and how to be consistent, all the while surrounding yourself, building a network of friendships, mentors. This is what college is all about. So we can be angry, we can be upset, but that is the central focus of what it is that I do. And I really let parents know that the better we inform you, the more opportunities you have to hear from people like Coach Tyner. Coach, you have something you want to add there, Captain?
Yeah, I was. I mean, in your story right there, just kind of maybe flip the switch real quick. And it has something to do with what do you want for your son or your daughter? Okay. And I'll close by saying this. I came from a broken home, a very blue collar family, right? And throughout the course of my high school career, my mother and father divorced. So my mother tried to raise me, do the best job she possibly could. In fourth grade, I told my fourth grade teacher I either wanted to be president of the United States or a Major League Baseball player. Fourth grade. So obviously I got into things in high school I should have never got into. So there went the presidential race, right? So all my eggs dropped into the baseball basket. And I'll be the first to tell you, I went to the University of Miami. My father was ill in my fall of my junior year. So I did not attend school that year. He had suffered his first heart attack. So being the oldest, I had to stay home, work, take care of little sister and little brother, mom, dad, because he was on disability. But I went back in January. Coaches held and gave me even more scholarship money because they didn't use it in the fall. They gave it to me so it would lighten the load. My freshman and my sophomore years, I hit 250, 256. No chance of being a pro ball player, but Miami stayed with me. Middle of my junior year, I got in the lineup, had a breakout game, and never came back out of the lineup. I got drafted the following year in 1980, played 3.5 years in the Oriole organization. Do you think I went back to Miami to finish my degree? And the answer to that question was no, because you got $50,000. I got drafted in the 9th round as a senior, no eligibility left, and I signed for $1,500. So after 3.5 years in pro ball, 2 elbow operations, and I can't touch my shoulder with my right elbow. So I've lost mobility in that thing. I couldn't play anymore. What was my plan B? And right now I hear a lot of parents talking about baseball. My answer to that is, what's your plan B? When baseball doesn't work out, where's your son or daughter? Are they having the time of their life, or are they going to delay their degree because they got to transfer out because it's not what they thought it was going to be? Tamara's already said it. Walter's already said it. I've already said it. Make sure it's a good fit academically, athletically. Make sure it's a good geographical location. Make sure all of these things fit. You have those great conversations at the dinner table. You know what? I don't want you 10 hours away from home. I want to be able to come and visit you. I also want to come and I listened to a guy say today, my son's going to play for Delaware. I can go see him play one series. Because now they're in the Conference USA. Right. They're flying to UTEP, man. Right. I can't jump on a jet and go to UTEP. You know, I can go to Liberty. That's it. He goes, that's not what we signed up for. But he loves, you know.
I mean, the biggest thing is, and Tamara, I'm going to give you the respectful final word. I want to let everybody know Tamara works with athletes of all ages, and it's elitemindsetdevelopment.com. And I know several people that she works with. I don't talk to them about what she talks to them about, but I do know that they all tell me that they find it tremendously beneficial. It's an integral part of their strength, their nutrition, their mental performance development with Tamara is a part of their process. I encourage parents to go and look at the website, contact Tamara. We're going to have Coach Tyner's information, Tamara's information, not only on the Blue Book app, but if you're listening on the podcast, it'll be in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll also be in the description. But Tamara, if you could just close out by saying you are actively involved with a 2026 high school graduate. Just talk about, so give parents an understanding, plan ahead, do a deeper dive, but really expand on your topic of widen your lens.
Yes. So we want to zoom out. Those are like my two favorite words when I talk to you, but it's true. We want to zoom out and put together a plan, right, for what we're trying to accomplish and back into that. It's really easy to get caught up in the weeds. And I think, the things that I talk to kids about, it's life skills, right? These are not just applicable to baseball or softball or whatever sport they're playing. I am wanting kids to put their best foot forward and to have the confidence to pursue those dreams, right, that they've had since they were a little kid. And the road can feel rough, right? With today's landscape, it can feel rough. How do we get there? But let's stay focused on what's important and what's going to kind of make us happy at the end. And then let's build the skills and the tools to help us get there.
I'm going to tell everyone this. I'm going to be with Tamara every other Tuesday. Coach Tyner during the off season may be more available than not, but I encourage you to spend some time, re-listen to this, take out the information that is applicable to you as parents and obviously student athletes. I'm going to ask one more time. It would be a huge favor if all of you decided to go over and hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Again, it's free, FREE, free. Hit the like button on this particular video. I think it's informative. I will let you know we are doing the postgraduate. I'm going to call it a course. It's going to come in 5 pieces. You can consume it at your leisure. I know a lot of people just listen on their way into work. In the coming weeks, moving forward, we will have the Pacific University of Pacific head coach. We will have Baylor University recruiting coordinator Zach Dillon. I will be talking to the University of Texas head coach Jim Schlossnagel, and that is coming up in our members section. I want to thank everybody for being patient. I hope that this provided you with a little bit of insight. If you still have questions, feel free to contact me. You can reach out to Coach Tyner or Tamara. And I thank you for your time. Matt, Tamara, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. I know we went a lot longer than normal.
Anytime I'm on with you, man, we can go as long as you want to go.
Well, I feel Coach, the same way. Thank you.
Well, I just want to remind everybody, every other Tuesday. So that would be November, I think, 4th or 3rd, somewhere around there. Tamara will be joining me again. A lot of the topics that her and I will cover come from parents' suggestions, so continue to keep those coming. Coach Tyner will be a regular guest, on an ongoing basis, probably a couple of times here in the off season until we get to the spring. If I don't talk to either one of you, although I'll talk to Tamara, but Coach, if I don't talk to you, have a great Halloween, a great Thanksgiving, and a hopefully a prosperous fall season at Towson.
Go Tigers. Thank you very much for having me on. Tamara, very nice meeting you.
Likewise.
Thanks to everybody that asked a question tonight. I hope I wasn't too aggressive.
Coach, you are a future TV star in the making, and
no, man. I've got a face for radio. So.
You and me both.
Like radio. Radio's fine too. Keeping it real.
Good. But I want to say thank you to everybody that took the time to watch. I appreciate it immensely. Until next week, enjoy your experience in high school. Live in your now. Be a part of your now. Don't focus so much on tomorrow. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.